Questions podcast. I'm Brandy Collins, and I'm curious about your vision as a board member for SF Film. I mean, it's a weird question to ask right now about a movie, but I want to know your vision.
I mean, I think as a board chair, like a lot of my job, honestly, is to support our executive director, and I think Anne is doing such a wonderful job. So our vision is kind of multi-pronged. Like part of it is to make sure we're bringing films to the Bay Area that film lovers can enjoy. Part of it is to support young filmmakers and emerging artists. And then I think part of it is to kind of tip our hat to the Bay Area and really show our appreciation and recognize what a great film community this always has been. So I think that's our overall approach. But more than anything, it's probably giving filmmakers a start, really digging into that.
And your personal journey to get here, how did that happen?
I mean, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a film producer, I always have been. I'm a San Franciscan, so it felt like a no-brainer to join the board. So for me, it's really a love of cinema and a love of the city, and just being excited to work with this board and being excited to work with Anne Lai, who has has had an amazing career in film already.
Yes. What film did you do?
So I've produced probably 25 films, many of which you've probably never heard of, but I do a lot of independent films, art house films. I did a film called Tallulah, which Netflix premiered a few years ago with Allison Janney and Ellen Page. And I just produced a movie called One Stupid Thing, which I'm taking through the festival circuit. So there's a lot of them you probably haven't heard of.
That's okay. I mean, we don't have to hear about every film, but you still love film, though.
I love doing it. I love producing.
What keeps you doing it?
I think what keeps me producing is part of it is just fun to see the finished product when you're helping a director imagine their dream and bring their vision to life. So it's incredibly satisfying when you get to sit in a theater and see what you helped make happen.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. And then the other is, I think, film outlives us. It's such an amazing art form, and we leave it behind. So I think my children and grandchildren and friends and family, hopefully in many years to come, will look back and think, oh wow, he made art, he made movies. So I think there's something pretty cool about that.
Yeah, that's a cool legacy too. It's like, I have something, even if everyone doesn't know it's yours, it's still your legacy. You get to look back on and go and critique it for yourself, right?
I think so.
Have you done that recently? Critique your own?
Yes, actually I recently saw a movie of mine on, I think it was Apple TV, and I was like, wow, that wasn't very good. I probably could have done better. That doesn't, the jokes aren't landing now.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll critique a movie in that way, but I think that the dramas that I've done and the kind of suspenseful movies hold up better, and I'm always really interested to look at the performances, whereas I feel like the comedies that I've worked on are harder, those are more subjective. So
yeah.
It's a little harder to watch those.
Yeah, okay, very cool. Oh, but thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, now you get to talk to me after talking to the mayor. Talk to me about making movies about rural areas, because you grew up in a rural area, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that. The passion for it, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think my passion for rural storytelling comes from believing that they're like lovely, precious stories from everywhere, and something uniquely nice that happens when people make movies where they live, and particularly when they love the places where they live, even when they're complicated and challenging. And the Bay Area has a beautiful tradition of that.
Yeah.
Filmmakers from San Francisco and from Oakland, and from the stories there, and I'm very inspired by that. My home looks different, and there's less people there, and there's mountains instead of skyscrapers, I guess, but I think it's the same effort to love a place and understand it and hope it can be maybe a better version of itself one day.
Do you get a chance to go back to it and look at whether or not it's gotten better, or help out to figure if it's gotten worse?
Like how the movie's affected?
Well, you in general. This is you're telling your story and your personal journey because your 3 movies have been very personal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to me about making it personal.
I guess it's personal. I wouldn't know any other way to do it. There's fiction there too, but I think the idea is to take. I think when art can be its best, it's like taking things that someone cares about and wonders about, hopes for and worries about, and then you fit them into a plot somehow, or into a painting, or into a song, or into a fable, or some way to get it, something that you can't say otherwise. That's what I hope the movies feel like.
For this one, you've worked with the same individuals for the past 2 films. How is it working with them this time, as opposed to the last time with Song Love? Or sorry, you know what I'm talking about.
Great question. I love working with people again and again. It's the only reliably great part of the job, and it's most of the job. And I've been fortunate to grow along with crew and actors, and it's great to be part of this strange little circus. It's great to work with friends.
Good. I'm glad you get to work with your friends.
Boy, I'm so lucky.
Yeah. Okay. As long as you stay friends afterwards, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay. I think Nate's gonna kick me off. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Culture workers provide lots of but we're gonna keep making stuff. I think we'll outlast them.
All right, thank you. Pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. We're gonna do this is content team,
How are you?
and then we'll have you speak for you.
Great. Hey, Brandy. This is the mic. Okay.
Yes, just a few quick questions for social. So is this your first time at the San Francisco Film Festival?
This is my first time at the SF Film Festival, but it's not my first time in town. I love it here, so I'm glad to be back.
What do you think of San Francisco?
It's colder than I thought it would be. I was expecting palm trees and sunshine and convertibles, but no, it's a little chilly. But it's still beautiful.
Yes, and what film do you wish that you could watch again for the first time?
That's a good question. I wish that I could watch again for the first time. Probably Moonlight. It was an amazing night.
It's a beautiful film. And the last question is, who is the most underrated for you in the world of filmmaking right now?
As filmmakers or performers? Or either?
Either?
There's so many amazing artists out there. The first person that comes to mind for me is, I think Aunjanue Ellis Taylor is like a national treasure. I think people are starting to get that now, but I still somehow think she's underrated because I just think she's a genius. So that's what I say.
That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good.
All right.
I'm right here. I'll start off with asking about your history. You have gone from being a bit player. You did the Law and Order run.
I did the Law and Order run.
Like, what is it like being a Law and Order alumni?
I'm a part of a big club.
Yes. Yes, you are.
We should probably have like a class reunion or something at some point because
Right.
we've all been through it.
Yeah. It's a long run, though. But you've done a lot of TV, and coming to this point of yourself, have you gone back to look at any of your old stuff and going, wow, this is my journey?
Not really. I find it really hard to watch my stuff. So,
Really?
Yeah. I can't do it.
Why?
Have you ever seen your face projected on a massive screen? I mean, you have a beautiful face. I'm sure you would love it. But for me, it's kind of traumatic.
Oh.
Yeah.
But you're an
I don't love
actor.
to watch it. I am an actor.
Oh.
But I'm an actor who likes to rehearse.
Okay.
Like, I like to make stuff. I like the process of being in the room and like discovering new things. But once it's made, I don't really feel the need to see it because I was there when we made it, and that to me is like the best part.
Okay. And moving forward now with this film, what did you want going into being a part of it and making it?
Well, I wanted to prove that my production company was capable of producing a movie like this. I also wanted to see Black people in a movie like this. One that it's the kind of movie that I feel like there were a lot of that were made, back in the 90s and early 2000s, and I wanted to see Black folks like living and loving and just trying to figure out, how to get from like point A to point B without there being car chases or violence or trauma or anything, but just trying to figure out their love lives. that was something that I was curious about. And I also wanted to have a chance to work with Nicole Bahari and DeWanda Wise. We've been orbiting each other for many years, and I just thought, you know what, if we don't make it happen, it may never happen. So we managed to put it together. I'm really proud of what we came out with.
Nice. And then I want to also ask about your role as Huey P. Newton. I interviewed Frederica. Have you seen The Bust in West Oakland? Have you been back?
We went together, actually.
Did you?
And I did, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You and Frederica?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
we sure
Good.
did.
So coming forward now, and you're coming back to the Bay Area, did you go back to visit The Bust? Did you revisit that moment?
Well, I didn't this time,
Okay.
because I just got off the plane a couple hours ago.
Okay.
But I was here in San Francisco like maybe 4 months ago, and I did go back by. I went by the foundation, and Frederica and I got together, and we had a little coffee and a chat, and I saw some of the work that they're doing now. Yeah, and I drove by The Bust again. Yeah.
So how do you feel about your contribution to telling the Newton story?
I feel like it's a story that deserves like many retellings. Like we told a small portion of it in like a very particular kind of way. But I think what I hope is that we at least open up the possibility and maybe like inform some young folks who weren't aware of the story at all. That the story exists and that maybe other people will be encouraged to come in and tell their version of it too.
Well, thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing this movie. It's going to be
I hope
great.
you dig it.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right.
Tell me about your vision for your film. Just tell me a little bit about the vision.
In a scientific sense?
Yes.
I wanted the film to feel like an action adventure that is scientific.
Yeah.
Where the main characters are scientists, and the adventure that they're on, it's all about the experiments that they're doing.
Yeah.
It's a disaster movie, but at the same time, there's this. It's meant to be something where the people in it are trying to be heroes as well.
And do you think the element of natural disaster came to you in a way that you wanted to tell a message about it, or was it just to have a disaster film? Does that make sense, the question?
Well, there's always a message within a story, I feel. Like
Yeah.
that's just very natural. And I wanted this to very much be a journey that the main character, Daisy Edgar-Jones, is on.
Okay.
In order to go through a certain transformation in order to help people.
What transformation are we looking for?
Well, in the beginning, she's very much devastated by something that happens when she's young and idealistic. And she has to come around and reclaim who she is and what she used to believe in order to try to help save the town.
Did you have to do a lot of studying for this, like yourself, to study it, to direct it, or did you walk into it knowing that it was going to be the disaster science film?
There's always an element, if I don't know what the subject is about, I try to do a lot of research. So I surrounded myself with scientists on this one, and Universal was very good about giving me the resource I need to have consultants on board.
Okay.
So that was a very important part of the process.
What was your... I don't want to ask the stereotypical, what was your favorite moment of filming it? I want to know what was the favorite thing you learned about the natural disaster or the world as it stands with natural disasters.
I guess my favorite thing was that there's still so much we don't know. Like we don't know how tornadoes fully form in terms of how how we meet between the clouds and the ground. That the funnel forming and actually moving, we're not fully sure about. So within that space of mystery, like it was great to still build a scientific film and to also show that there's a lot we still don't know, and that's why there is science. That's why we are continuing to study things.
Did you study? You went to Yale, so did you study that?
I studied ecology and evolutionary biology, but I didn't. I did some like environmental studies coursework, but I never did like weather science or anything like that. So it was very much over my head, and I had to learn a lot. And I went out storm chasing with some of the advisors as well, and just immerse myself into that world.
Wait, you actually went to storm chase?
I did. We got shut down by a tornado one day. And,
Really?
the scientist said, "Hey, you want to go and chase?" So, of course, I said, "Yeah, I'll go out there." And it was just like there's an exhilarating element to being out there, and you can feel that fun of why people are doing it. But you can also see, no, this is actually very serious and deadly, and it's also there's a reason for doing it. There's a reason to do it, to learn something and to try to push forward what we know.
Yeah.
So all of those things coming together in that moment was really interesting for me.
How do you keep the humor in this filmmaking process also while you're learning about the not so fun stuff?
Well, it's meant to be a movie, so
Yeah.
A lot of that comes on set when we're just riffing and joking around, and I try to keep a set that everyone's having a good time and laughing, and we try to bring that into what's going on screen. These guys really became really great friends with each other, and yeah, it was just fun because we would always be thinking, how do we push the boundary? No, how do we make this scene funnier? How do we push it with that? So yeah, that's part of the process.
Okay, cool. I mean, I think it's really cool that you got to experience it and you get to direct it. Are you thinking of something outside of it to be not advocacy work, but participating in more of it to keep the momentum going with what you learned?
I always, I hope the advocacy comes in people trying to study it more. Like the first Twister that came out inspired a lot of people to go into atmospheric sciences and tornado research. So if young people could watch this film, find it a lot of fun, and say, hey, I want to maybe study that stuff, I feel like that would be number one what I'm hoping to accomplish with the legacy of the film.
Yes. Good. Yeah. Did you? Are you staying local here in the Bay Area, and the weather change and everything else?
Yeah. Weather is interesting here.
Yeah.
I live in Pasadena, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I'm here just for the festival. And, yeah.
Well, you don't have to go home far, so you'll be all right.
Yeah, it's not too far. It's beautiful.
Good. I'm glad. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed. I'm hoping you're enjoying yourself here. You got to actually do something outside of the festival before going home.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for talking to me, Isaac.
Thank you.
Hey, Sky. Talk to me about the journey of being a native creative. It's rhyming, but the journey to being a Native American and creating particularly the vision for any of that work, if it even shows up in your work at all.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like being Native is a really important part of how I approach the world and how I understand myself within it. And the thing about, I guess, like being someone that is creative, that's like Native and like working through this stuff is, I always like wanted to see the things that were representative of my life that weren't present in popular culture or mainstream media. So it's kind of like finding a way to fill that gap or just to fill that need in some sort of way. And I think that's a really important part of it too. It's just like as a Native person, it's just you don't see yourself represented in a lot of ways in mainstream media or in cinema or films or TV, and so you kind of have to like do it yourself.
Yeah, I think of Reservoir, the show.
Yeah, Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah. Is it Reservoir Dogs? No, that's the Tarantino movie.
It's a rip off the title.
Yeah.
No, it's Reservation Dogs.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Yeah, and I'm thinking of that as one of the biggest representations. How do you want this film to fit into that, if at all?
I mean, I think of it as a constellation. You know, like a show like Reservation Dogs is doing so much, and it's building off of a lot of work being done over like many years. And so to have work that's part of a constellation of representation, where it's like not one single voice is essentialized or has to carry the burden of being the main expression form for Native cinema or Native film. I think it's important to just like see what the different ways it means to be Native in this country and anywhere that there's like Indigenous people. Yeah,
and what does it feel like to be presenting your work here at SF Film?
It feels really good to be here presenting my work. The film that I screened last night, it was originally supposed to be in 2020, but due to the pandemic, it got canceled. So it was like nice to return here and to have the work be shown to this audience. And I've had family that lived here, and so it's a place that I've come to a lot throughout my life, and it's always nice to return.
Yeah. And one final question, please. I'm hoping that you could give me a little bit about where your journey is next. Not just, you have to give this work to the world, but what is your journey next? What do you want to work on next?
I'm working on a bunch of different gallery projects, like installation works, photo works, as well as my next feature. So I want to continue doing that and trying to find ways to, keep on answering the questions that I have about indigeneity through these different mediums and forms.
Yeah, next world, next life. What does that mean?
I don't know.
Okay, because I'm like, what does that mean? But that's a good way to put it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Is this going to work like that?
Yes, that's perfect. Tell me a little bit about your vision for this film.
My vision for this film was to have no idea what this film was going to look like.
Yeah.
Because in all honesty, when they asked me, American Masters, when they asked me to be part of a show about me, I said there's just one condition. It has to be directed by a deaf director. And they said, okay, do you know who you'd like to have? And I said, well, I had to come up with an answer really quick. So I said, Shoshana Stern. And they're like, okay, has she directed before? They said, I said, no. And the rest is history. I never once saw what Shoshana was going to shoot or how she was going to edit. I never asked her once what she was planning to do in the film during the entire 2 years of the making of this film. I never showed up on any interviews that she did with other people. I never was part of the editing sessions. I left it all up to her. 100%. So that's all her vision, actually.
Did you have to be a lot more intuitive because both of you are deaf, or was there the connection because of the disability? Or yeah.
Shoshana and I have been friends for a long time, so that helped a great deal. And I've always had somewhere in my gut, I felt that she had a very strong sense of direction, being that she was a creative person, being that I knew she would be good as a storyteller on the screen. And that's why we made a connection. And that's why I came up with her name right away, because I knew she would tell my story the right way, the best way possible.
And after watching it, do you feel that you've gotten your message across, or was there something that was missing from it?
I've seen this film maybe 5 times now, and I still have, it's a learning process for me, and I can tell you that this is part of a healing process for me as well. And it's very raw and emotional for me watching this film. So every time I watch this, I learn something new. And who knows what I'm going to learn tonight.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I am I Have Questions podcast.
Oh, sweet.
I have questions for you.
Excellent.
Excuse me, let me make sure
I
I'm
have no
correct.
answers, but I'll try.
Well, you might have some answers.
Maybe.
Tell me about this movie and your role here.
Well, the movie's called Isle Child,
Yes.
and I play the mother of the lead boy. The movie is about a young man who was adopted at a very young age from Korea, and the adoption agency basically told his adopted parents, played the adopted mother, to raise him as their own, with no connection to his cultural heritage. And so he's been raised in Lenox, Massachusetts by very well-meaning people, but they raised him with no identity of where he came from or what his roots are. And when he reaches his adolescence, he starts to find himself being kind of angry and frustrated and lost. And a letter comes that his mother sees and withholds from him, but he eventually discovers that says that his birth mother might be looking for him.
Do you think there's a cultural norm that's happening happening because over the years there's been that culture of adoption, and having this film display that, do you think it helps the cultural norm, or does it do something different for it?
I would hope that this film would help the culture norm to foster dialogue in the community of adoption. There have been a lot of articles the last several years. I mean, several that Thomas, our filmmaker, sent to me before we started, but as recently as maybe the last 2 months, there was an article in the New York Times about the controversies surrounding illegal adoptions from Seoul specifically. And we actually did go to shoot in Korea and had the opportunity to work to shoot at one of these agencies. We shot in now a defunct building, but at a functional center that had some controversy in the last 20 years. I don't know how much they understood about the movie we're making. But in any case, that's sort of off topic. What you were asking is, I think it'll help? I do. I mean, I think I'm a big believer in the power of the arts to change things, to reflect back our humanity and foster thought and contemplation and the opportunity for conversation. So I hope that's what it does.
Yeah, it does. And it also helps me understand how we as a community contribute to that. Can you tell me more about not your upbringing, but more like a little more about you, because I want to know what brought you to this film.
Well, I mean, as an actor, I'm always looking for new voices in storytelling, and this came my way at a very pivotal moment for me and for all actors, which was on the precipice of a strike. I'm also on the negotiating committee at SAG-AFTRA, and we were in negotiations when I was offered this film. So I knew it was an opportunity to work before the strike went into effect. And in fact, we did get special permission from the union to complete the movie during the strike. But I was really excited about this new young voice. Thomas was 21 when the movie came to me. He had dropped out of USC after completing a short film that was a proof of concept of the movie. So I got to see that, and I also got to see another short that he made that came here to the San Francisco Film Festival in 2021 that was so beautiful, so assured, so just filled with confidence and just beautiful. And I thought, this is an exciting new filmmaker. I want to work with him. So,
good.
Yeah.
And can you this final question is, talk to me about that labor relations portion, because that's really important nowadays, especially after last year where there was a lot of strikes. I've written about it myself, and there have been a lot happening with directors, writers, actors everywhere. So what was your contribution to the set with labor relations, and did you educate some people? Because it's all new for a lot of people.
You know, I believe in the phrase attraction, not promotion.
Yeah.
So lead by example.
Yep.
I try not to be preachy about the union. If someone has questions about something or something comes up, I'm always there as a representative. But that's not really my role as a board member or as a negotiating team member. I mean, I was certainly very mindful that we were given special dispensation. I had nothing to do with that, by the way. The movie got it on its own merits, but I was aware of how lucky we were to be shooting, because we're truly an independent movie. The movie was made for less than $1 million. But if anyone ever has a question about the union, I'm always there to help and to extol its virtues. I'm such a grateful member of the union. I've had health care since I was 16 years old. I have a pension.
Yep.
These are amazing things that the union has fought for. So.
Thank you for that. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Nice to talk.
Hi, Thomas. I'm Brandy. I Have Questions podcast. This is new for you, is that correct?
The feature film side
Yes.
of festivals? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've never been in front of these lights talking to someone on the other side of whatever this is.
Well, I mean the directing part. It's new for you, or have you done other feature film director? I'm not familiar with your work, so tell me more about you.
I've done a handful of shorts. My last short film actually won the GGA award here.
Okay.
As a film. So I've directed a few shorts, but it's my first feature.
Oh, what was that process like for you?
Directing this feature.
Directing, if you're a new director, of course, what is it like to be a new director, do a feature film, and have it's a larger cast and a larger production? What is that experience?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think a lot of filmmakers say that making a feature is similar to making a short film, but just longer, right? It's like a marathon versus a sprint.
Okay.
And while that metaphor is true, I think there are major differences with making a short film versus a feature. And so I've learned how different that is, but it's not, a feature film is not just longer in scale, it's a completely different way of thinking about the cinematic language.
Yeah.
And so one of the biggest things I've learned is just how to even speak that cinematic language of a feature film. And so directing, it's more difficult. Directing actors particularly is a similar but different process.
Yeah.
And in terms of like directing a picture, like you have to think, the shot structure is actually very different. With a short film, you can kind of see the entire puzzle in one view. But with a feature film, you can't. Things are always changing every day, every second. If you shoot a scene before and after lunch, it's going to feel different because everyone has carbs. And
of course, and everybody wants to go to sleep, and everyone's tired.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Do you feel like you learned more about yourself in this process, or what did you learn about yourself in this process?
Yeah, well, this feature film, Isle Child, it's based on a proof of concept film called See that we made in 2019, and we sold that to HBO Max. And that film was really a way for me to understand who I was. Like, I made that film to understand who I was because at the time I was in high school. I just didn't know who I was. I spent my entire childhood trying to pass as white. And making that short film came after watching Moonlight, and seeing how Moonlight dealt with identity. And as I began to explore my own identity, me making this film, the short film, gave me the answer, the words to describe that feeling of like being so other and feeling so much self-hatred, And similarly, this feature film is an extension of that. Even though I feel like I've grown as an artist since then, it's really reflective of my growth as a person, of like how to accept my own identity in some ways.
Do you believe that being Korean American, directing here in the U.S. or the States will make a huge impact internationally, or will it change for you prospectively about being Korean American?
Yeah, you mean like just the fact that we were an international production? Yeah, absolutely. Because we went back to Korea to shoot part of this movie.
Okay.
And this film is about me and my friend who's a Korean American adoptee, and he's never gone to Korea. But hopefully we want to take this movie to a Korean festival and take him with us to Korea and like bring him back to its roots and like show him what it's like. And so shooting in Korea was absolutely pivotal for this movie, and also a huge part of it because my history there. Like, I was born in Korea and then I immigrated here. So my bloodline, my roots, similar to my friend C, who's the adoptee that this film is about, we're all from there. And so it only makes sense to go there and shoot there, and that has a significant impact on the final product.
Okay. And final question. What do you want to see for yourself moving forward after this, after touring it? What do you see for you as a person? Not just a director, not just the film, but for you.
I think each one of my films is an exploration of who I am at that point in my life.
Yeah.
And so, a film takes so long to make that by the time you finish it, you've actually kind of grown past it in many ways. So like, I feel like I've grown past this current movie 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, but that's just like that's
not growing past it, like as in I'm over it and ready to get done with it.
Well, that too, but also like I feel like I've grown as a person to where this film is really for my younger self. If I had seen it when I was younger, I think it would have been a little life-changing. It would have been quite shocking. And I think similarly, if this film is really for the younger Asian Americans, any younger foreigners, it's really for them. And so the next thing I make, I think will also be similar, where whatever I am thinking about in that phase of my next chapter of my life, I think will be reflected in my work, not just as a director, but that being a director is so part of who I am, or being an artist is so part of who I am, that I think it'll all just kind of blend together. I started a YouTube channel to educate people on how I made this movie and how they can make feature films, and so that's a big part of what I'm going to be doing next, is help educating people to democratize filmmaking. Like, that's my ultimate mission in life. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Thomas, for the time. You can hold it or pin it.
Are you
either
filming
way.
or just recording?
Both.
Oh, okay.
A little bit of both. Don't worry, it's not that bad. I Have Questions podcast.
Okay.
You know how this microphone thing goes.
Yeah, but union rules say I'm not allowed to do this.
Really?
Yeah, when we're doing
production.
Yeah, production. Yeah.
But we're on a lot.
Okay, so we're
next
okay.
time I'll remember to pin you myself. Okay, got it.
Yes.
Talk to me about this. You've created a lot of movies that are Gen X, and I think that's like, I'm Gen X, and the movies are iconic for Gen X. Adventures in Babysitting, Rent, and they're still very, very prevalent today.
Right.
Talk to me about creating that history, or during that time, did you even know you were creating history?
No, I mean, you can't ever sort of. If you go into a movie thinking that, it's sort of like thinking, oh, this movie's going to make a lot of money at the box office. You will certainly fail. I mean, for me, it was one of the keys was really a thing called timelessness. And when we were doing some of the films, not all of them, but 80% of them, there was this feeling like something like Home Alone, a certain wardrobe, I would say, that feels like it's too early 90s, too late 80s. Let's do something in terms of the wardrobe that feels like people see this movie 20 years from now, it still feels a little fresh. There are certain things you can't get away from. The size of glasses or some of the people wore in the 80s.
Or the phones.
Or the phones, or that we have a talk boy or so those kind of things. Technology does change, but for the most part, trying to keep that sense of timelessness, which we brought over to movies like Harry Potter, and Rent was of a time and of a certain period. So for me, Rent had to be very specific for that specific time.
Especially since it's a musical. There's also, the music doesn't necessarily translate through time all the time.
Right.
I don't think Rent was your only musical, or was it?
It is. Yeah,
Is
it's
it?
the only musical I've done. And, it's my favorite film that I've done. So it's really kind of an honor to be here and show it because I haven't seen it with an audience in 20 years.
Oh.
So it's, not that it's been lost, but it hasn't been screened a lot, for an audience. So tonight, it's a very special night for me. Yeah. I have a tough time sitting through the movie and not getting emotional. Oh, God, yeah. It's really, from an emotional standpoint, the show still gets to me.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay, well then, I wanted to ask you, because I don't have a lot of questions, but you've worked with a big cast with this one, Rosario Dawson, who's also gone on to do DMZ. She did her own independent film. I talked to her about Not Normal.
Right.
And watching the trajectory of those actors who you've worked with in the past, Macaulay Culkin, do you ever reach out to them and just ask them, hey, where are you now and what's going on?
Well, there's certain people that you keep in touch. There's no specific sort of, it's not an agenda, but there's no recipe for saying, okay, this is the person I'm going to keep in touch with. Or it just happens. Like Dan Radcliffe and I have never kept out of touch.
Right.
So in terms of what Dan is doing, if he's in a play on Broadway, I make it a point to, my wife and I fly to New York to see him. We just saw him last year, and merrily we roll along. So we do keep in touch with Dan. I just 5 weeks ago, ran into Macaulay Culkin at an event in Los Angeles. We had not seen each other, I can't even count how many years, and we're actually going to get together and have lunch and sort of reconnect.
Yeah.
So it's important for me, if anyone reaches out, we will reconnect, or if anyone's having a problem of some sort. But it's the problem with the film business, and the nature of it is you make these you sort of bond in a very short time on these incredibly tight schedules.
It's like a war, you're bonding through war.
And then you say to yourself, we're going to see each other all the time. And the minute you wrap, you don't see each other again. And then you're on to your next project and you're doing something else.
Yeah.
But it is important for me to catch up with people when I can.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping you do, and I'm hoping that, you know, that audiences still can resonate. I mean, I hate to say it, rent is still a problem for all of us. The struggle is real.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that 20 years later that it makes a huge difference. Do you think, this is my final question for you, do you think now, watching it again, it'll translate the same way as it did then?
I think it'll feel different, and I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. I have to actually sit through the movie to actually determine how it feels in 2025.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I know the rent struggles are real.
Yes.
And I know we're dealing with, and I don't want to get political, but we're dealing with people who don't have a lot of tolerance or love or humanity. And when you're dealing with those kind of people, a movie like Rent's important.
Yeah.
It's important to remember that you have to have you have to be a human being.
And have to remember, you know, some of us pay rent while other people own homes, and it's still real.
It's still real.
It's still very real. Well, thank you for your time, Chris,
Okay,
and I'm looking forward to watching this again.
Thank you.